Candace Carter, thoughts to go. Reading again a very free translation into English of my novel, We Save the World. This is part 9, The Wall and Beyond. The going got easier and part of the path was even paved. It wasn't long before we found ourselves facing a large arched gate. I broke loose from the group and ran towards the gate, but Sophia let out a scream that stopped me in my tracks. She picked up a stone and hurled it towards the opening. The stone hit an invisible force and rebounded back. Carefully, we checked the space to the right and left of the gate, only to find that here too an invisible wall existed. We feared that Viola and Helena were on the other side of the wall. If so, how on earth did they get there? And more important, how could they get out? Sophia suggested singing, so we bellowed out all the songs we had ever composed and all the notes. Even Timmy joined in yelping. To our great joy, Viola and Helena came out of the bushes. They looked terribly exhausted, but were thrilled to see us, especially Helena, bedraggled and lost, her wispy hair tied back in a makeshift ponytail, and her clothes partly on backwards. Viola, too, moved slowly, her expression mat. Still, she got Helena to sit directly across from us on the other side of the wall. Then, using sign language, Viola told of their adventure. Around a year before, she and Helena, on one of their long hikes, had come across the tree and its contents. They followed the instructions of the map, leading exactly to the same place we were. Dirk asked why she had never told anyone about their discovery. Viola just shrugged and said that Helena didn't remember anything from one time to the next, and watching after her in general kept Viola so busy that she'd never given it much thought. But the gateway had a magic effect on both, and often they sat together leaning on the invisible wall. The day before, they too had been watching the fascinating scene in the sky, as suddenly a great peal of thunder broke the silence, followed by a streak of lightning hitting the wall. In the split second before the current reactivated, Helena and Viola had been hurled to the other side. "We will find a way to get you out," promised Sophia with surety. "But please, first tell us, what did you find on the other side of the wall?" Viola continued her story. A little ways farther on the path, they had come upon a cleared area that must at some time have been farmland. After that, single houses had shown up and eventually a whole village. The jungle had again taken over to the point that they estimated it had been a good while since anyone had lived there. As of yet, they hadn't ventured farther, wanting mostly to be close to the wall in the hopes that we would find them. We spent days investigating the wall, hoping to find the energy source, but to no avail. Viola and Helena accompanied us on the opposite side. And so it came that one evening, back around the campfire on the beach, the mood was more than despondent. Sophia looked long to the flames before she then shared her thoughts. It could be we have been approaching this problem from the wrong angle. Maybe we should instead consider which of all our gifts might be helpful in our venture. She looked around the circle until her gaze fell on Zoe. Zoe was around Viola's age, and she was also mute. She was a true designer artist and loved to flaunt with her super tough image. She shaved her head, bore body piercings on all possible and impossible places, and wore her own fantastic jewelry, creations of shells and bones. While her image was more than imposing, it couldn't hold a light to her special talent. If Zoe was in the mood, she could let out a high, shrill scream that would splinter glass. We didn't have a lot of glass on the island, but what we did have was kept safe from Zoe. As Zoe stood in the middle of the circle, Sophia then asked Victor to join her. Victor had been in the first troop, and, as I have explained before, he could sprint so fast we sometimes thought the accumulated energy might at one point lift him in the air like a bird. Sophia's third choice was the new baby Carolyn. Carolyn, blind and spastic, must have been around 6 months old at the time. Sophia believed of all of us that Carolyn embodied the purest form of love on the island. After having chosen the three, Sophia asked me to bring the donkey Matthias and several others of his kind to our gathering. The next morning we again set out with the new members of our troop for the gate. Dirk led Matthias with Sophia on his back holding Carolyn. Zoe and Victor flanked them from left to right. Frauke, Timmy, and I followed with the other donkeys. Reaching the invisible wall, we explained our plans to Viola and Helena. Except for Victor, we positioned ourselves along the wall, making sure that our bodies were in contact with the invisible force. Victor, following Sophia's instructions, darted in and out, touching us and the invisibility. At Sophia's signal, we all held our breath as simultaneously Zoe let loose a blood-curdling scream. In the exact same instant, Zoe gently pressed Caroline's body into the center middle of the invisible gate, and with a roaring crash, the wall ceased to exist. Shock and disorientation resulted as we were all catapulted backwards the instant the wall collapsed. The animals, too, were running wild and erratic. One look from Sophia, and I knew what was to do. The low, soothing tone I sang was taken up by all, returning calm to both our animal friends and to us. Sophia hugged our two runaways, and together we headed for home. For hours into the night, I sat on the beach, ruminating on what had just happened. It was exhilarating to consider the great adventure we might soon experience. How great the adventure would really unfold, I couldn't, in my wildest dreams, have imagined.